Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a Dragonborn, a Kinku, and a Tabaxi, and I'm going to show you how to detail those specific creatures. And it's basically going to be looking at scale, feathers, and fur. So first up is the Dragonborn. I am just drawing little doodles of each, just to give you guys an overview of what we will be covering. Um, Basically, Dragonborns look at reptiles, look at crocodiles, look at iguanas, look at lizards, look at snakes, look at those types of creatures so that when you draw your dragon, you've got a reference. Like you can look at creatures with like rams and horns and fur and stuff. You can make your dragonborn however you want because hell, it's fantasy. Um, I know I'm probably gonna have people be like, you can't have fur on a dragonborn. Do what you want, I don't care. Anyways, so basically I've got like plate, which is that, and then there's like the bump reptilian textured skin that isn't plate. It's like bumpy scaly bits that I'm doing here. And a lot of this stuff you can put in a grid, so just remember there are going to be smaller areas and there are going to be larger areas of plate and smaller areas of little like reptile scaled skin. And then we've got offset scales, like on snakes, and that's like fish as well. They're kind of offset. So, like, that's kind of a little demo of that. And then up here, I'm doing a demo of what would be like an alligator back or even a tortoise back, depending on the type of tortoise. So it's figuring out what the geometric shapes are, doing yourself a little grid, and then doing the details on top of those. But remember to look at reference. If you're having trouble, go and look up some reptile pictures for Dragonborns or like any other kind of scaled creature if you're having issues. Just make sure like use the reference that's out there. There's tons of animal photos out there, and I've put together a Pinterest board that I will link in the description below so that you guys can see some of the reference that I was using. So here I'm just building, like giving him some more details. Him or her, gender neutral. And then around the mouth, I've noticed that there are larger plates and they're very flat. They don't stick out. They're not like scaled like a fish or a snake. And then around the eyes, there's a lot like I'm using an iguana for this. It was very, very small little scales that went around the eye in high detail, and they had very large areas of large chunky scales as they like got away from the eye. So it went from very detailed, very small scales around the eye out to larger scales around the like muzzle and around the jaw. And what I'm doing here is I'm just throwing a grid down. If you guys are having trouble with like the placement of scales, do a little grid around the area you're doing. Remember that there are planes to the face. Like try and follow those planes for when you are doing your detailing. And don't forget, like you can have areas of high detail and then you can have areas of very like large areas of low detail, like those large plates along the jaw. Those aren't going to be super detailed. I'm not going to have 1,000 little bumps and lines in there because it's a large flat area, and that gives the eye somewhere to rest, and it allows the eye to go into the detailed areas and appreciate the detail, but also allows it to like have a resting area, like, and shows you like the scale of the dragon. Like, I don't know, the scale of the scales. Anyways, so I'm doing another little grid under the neck, and in there I'm going to do some more of the little tiny scales on the skin. I don't know, I probably should have looked up what the little bumps are called. I just call them scaly skin. Anyway, but yeah, so I'm going to do like a little grid in here, and I'm going to put like an area of height or detail just to give it gives the essence of what the skin is like. And then as I move out, I just do a few sporadic little bumps. But you don't need to detail every single portion of a creature. So you can have like areas where you just kind of give a little hint of what that skin's like and then use paint and color to do the rest. So with here, with feathers, they start small and they go larger, especially on what I'm doing is a wing. So it's small, small, tight together, and then larger, longer, and less feathers near the end of the wing. But when drawing, I was looking up a raven for this. Very small feathers around the eye, kind of like very small scales around the Dragonborn eye, but very small feathers, and then like there's wispy feathers and stuff. So look at the creatures that you want to hybrid, like want to make anthros of, and do some detail studies. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking up a raven, and I'm gonna go into the Kinku and do some sketches and drawing and stuff like that for him. So when you get down the shapes and stuff and you're looking to detail in areas, you got to remember, like, there's micro shapes, and this looks like a seagull. Anyway, but like wispy feathers on the beak, and you can do a few wisps. You don't have to go into extreme detail and do all the little veins and everything and little hairs off the feathers, but if you just give like an essence of what that looks like down here there's long wispy feathers as well, so I just kind of group them together and pick out a few areas to show, like, oh, this is very wispy, it's not the same as like the head feathers, and that allows people to like look at it, okay, that's the feather type. You don't have to go into extreme detail, you just have to kind of give an essence of what it is, and a lot of people's eyes will like find that and go, oh, okay, this is what this is. So you can do this with shadowing and stuff, but like I go back into the neck feathers and I start picking out certain ones to highlight so that you really get like the essence of that these are very wispy feathers and stuff. Different types of feathers and different types of detailing. You want to look for areas of high detail versus low detail, and it creates a contrast in the image that you're able to, the eye will rest and then it'll go towards the detailed areas because it knows that area is busy, so it wants to go there, but then you need it to rest in other areas. So the same goes for the tabaxi. Group clumps of fur together and then break them up with your line work. So this is the outline of the tabaxi, and the face of cats, a lot of them, they have very short, tight fur around the face. Not all, like dogs sometimes are very shaggy, but a lot of times cats have very like flat fur on their face and stuff like that. So, but the edges of them, you'll see when I get into that, because right now I'm just kind of giving you some ideas of the direction of the fur. But when I go on to his, like, the top of his head and to the sides and his cheeks and stuff, I start creating these wispy lines, which gives me the indication that he's very unkempt, because it's not all smooth fur. It's like very jagged and all over the place. And that's what you have to look at when you're like looking for your reference for your different characters, is how does the fur go together? How does it clump together? Is it very sleek and smooth and you only have to do a few lines to show that they are furry and like have a couple little breaks? Or is it like this dude who's like super fluffy and like very scraggly looking? So there's lots of breaks and lots of areas of like layers of fur that have been matted down and stuff. So look